Over the next few days, a record heat wave is going to be building into basically the entire eastern half of the country, where many places could be seeing temperatures 20 to 30 degrees above average. In fact, most cities, their forecast right now is higher than their record temperature for the entire month of March. And for a lot of places too, they're going to have the warmest temperatures since last year, since before winter. So could this be indicating the end of winter? We'll see. The real reason behind it is the jet stream. What's the jet stream doing? Well, right now it's basically straight west to east. That's not really going to bring any exciting weather, but you see throughout Tuesday into Wednesday into Thursday, that jet stream goes from straight west to east to huge ridge that's going to build over the south and southeast, and then actually get even bigger throughout the end of the week. Friday and Saturday is really going to be the bulk of this heat wave. And you might be thinking, who cares about a heat wave? Well, in case you didn't know, heat is actually the #1 weather-related killer. Like, heat kills more people than any other weather event. So you really got to take these kind of things seriously, especially when you see temperatures throughout the south that are in the mid to high 90s. Possibly even reaching 100 in some places. And again, it's all because of this jet stream that is just forming a giant ridge over the entire eastern half of the country, working all the way up into the Midwest, where places as north as Ohio could be in the 70s by the end of the week. Well, let's actually dive through it day by day. Let's see what's going on. And we kind of ease into it. Tuesday, this is showing temperature anomalies. That means how high above average are you? And you can see it is pretty high above average at this point. It's really 11, 15 degrees above average throughout Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia. You can see it hasn't worked its way north yet. That first screen I was showing you, this is like the bulk of the heat wave. That's really Friday into Saturday. Right here, starting on Tuesday, the jet stream hasn't really turned into a ridge yet. This is when it's still west-east, and you can see the Midwest is actually below average at this point. So throughout the south and southeast, maybe 10 to 15 degrees above average, which is still pretty significant, but not as crazy as what we're going to be seeing later in the week. Looking at some of the temperatures, you see this is the forecast for Tuesday. You can see Houston, about 83 degrees, New Orleans, 80 degrees, Tallahassee, 81 degrees, Atlanta getting into 71 degrees. The other big story going on in the southeast right now is there is a tornado threat and also the possibility of some flooding. So if you want the full forecast on that, I just recorded a video really diving into the severe weather threat. This video is going to be just more about the heat wave. So that's what it's looking like for Tuesday. Maybe 10 to 15 degrees above average, really in the mid 70s to low 80s in really most places. Moving into Wednesday, we can move into Wednesday afternoon. You can see that heat wave really starts to build in. The jet stream has started to really turn into a ridge, and you can see Texas about 15 degrees above average, which is what we were seeing in the last screen, but now it's worked its way all the way into Oklahoma, really all the way up into Nebraska, and even into the Midwest is starting to see a little bit of this heat wave by already tomorrow. This is Wednesday afternoon, and you can see places in Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio, 10 to 12 degrees above average. While really all the south and southeast is kind of in that period it was yesterday, 10 to 15 degrees above average. But you can see it's really starting to spread out as that jet stream starts to turn into a ridge. And looking at some of the temperatures on Wednesday afternoon, Houston looking at like 86 degrees, Alexandria 81 degrees, Jackson 76. Down in Florida, can we see any 90s yet? No, not yet. Palm Bay getting into the mid 80s though. But it's interesting to look into the Midwest where it has been pretty cold recently, especially as Winter Storm Quincy moved through, really brought some cold air with it. Columbus at this point though, Wednesday afternoon, gonna be about 62 degrees. That's pretty nice. As you saw, 10 to 12 degrees above average. Working into Thursday, this is when the heat wave really starts to crank up. Thursday afternoon, boom, you can see we start to see those 15 to 20 degrees above average and even 25 degrees above average throughout Oklahoma, Arkansas. Northern Texas is going to be about 20 degrees above average, and you can see it's those 20 degrees above average has even stretched into the Midwest, Ohio, Illinois, Indiana, really 15 to 20 degrees above average at around Thursday afternoon. And you can see it's even worked its way all the way up into Maine at this point, although that's not as huge of a temperature anomaly. Some of the temperatures we're going to be seeing on Thursday afternoon, well, now we're getting into the 90s. See, southern Texas, really high 90s. Places in Florida should be in the 90s. Montgomery and Jackson, really in the mid 80s. But where we saw that 20 to 30 degrees above average was in Oklahoma. Oklahoma City, 85 degrees. Fort Smith, 87. And then the Midwest, Columbus, let's see if it gets higher. About 69 degrees. Indianapolis is going to be about 64 at this time. So that's above average for sure. That's about 20 degrees above average. Midwest should still be way colder at this time. We only just started spring, and this is already starting to look like summer. Like I said, a lot of these places are seeing their warmest temperatures since before winter, since last year. Thursday, this is when it really picks up, what we were just looking at. That's when you really get into the 20 degree above average in a lot of places. Moving into Friday though, you can see that those 20 to 30 degrees above average start to move farther north, really into Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. And let's back it up to Friday afternoon. You can see this strip right here from Tennessee into Oklahoma, Illinois, Indiana, 25 to 30 degrees above average. And then that just continues to spread out. Let's look at some of the temperatures on Friday. Well, let's go to around 2 p.m. Again, Texas probably getting into the hundreds at this point on Friday. And again, heat is pretty important to watch for. Like I said, it is the #1 weather-related killer. So you got to take this stuff seriously. If you don't have an AC unit, I would definitely suggest getting one, as it is going to be in the mid 80s to low 90s throughout basically the entire southeast. And then Nashville, 82 degrees at this point. Columbus, 64. Indianapolis, 67. And then all the way up in Maine, where we started to see some of those above average temperatures working in. And you can see Albany is about 57. That's pretty warm. Not as warm as like a week or two ago from New York, where we were seeing like 65 degrees. But with temperatures like this, it's going to be hard to stay inside because of the coronavirus. It's going to be probably absolutely beautiful as that ridge builds into the entire country. All right, moving into, this is showing Friday afternoon, where we saw those 20, 25, 30 degrees above average, really from Tennessee up into Illinois and Indiana and Ohio. And then let's move into Saturday. This is really when it's starting to move farther north and then east. And this is really the end of the heat wave, as you start to see some of these colder temperatures build in across really the entire western US and then start to creep into the south towards Saturday afternoon. Remember, there's a huge ridge over the east right here, which means there's a huge ridge over the trough. A huge ridge over the east right here, which means there's a trough over the west. Man, that was a brain fart right there. This is showing what that looks like. Huge ridge over the east, huge trough over the west. Going back to our map, I believe that's what we're showing right there. You can see those 25 to 30 degrees above average in the Midwest, while places in Arizona and New Mexico, 20 degrees below average. So it's interesting to see the temperature contrast right there. And again, it's completely just because there's huge ridge to a huge trough. So checking out some of the surface temperatures at this point, Charleston, 79 degrees. Places in North Carolina, South Carolina, getting into the low 80s. And then places in Florida really into the mid 80s to 90s. But again, at this point, it's kind of moved east and a little bit farther north. As you can see, places in Columbus has finally reached 69 degrees. That's interesting to see. And then it's finally going to move off as we get to the end of the day Saturday. And then by Sunday, the temperature throughout basically the entire country kind of evens out. Like I did say though, there is some severe weather going on. Even more than this heat wave, there's a tornado threat and a flooding threat. So if you want to see that video, you can check out my forecast playlist. And I do forecast videos every single morning. So if you enjoyed this video, you can subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.